Welcome to Sports Talk Live Buffalo Plus. Sports Director John Scott reunited after a few weeks apart with Vic Carucci, the Hall of Famer and insider here. Tonight's show, all about the Bills and the Chiefs. And yes, there are some different things to talk about, Vic, this time around. We'll go through the matchup, plus have some thoughts from the opposing side from Chiefs beat reporter for The Athletic, Jesse Newell. Vic, though, we want to start with the standings when we discuss this, because usually this Bills-Chiefs matchup in the regular season is jockeying for position who can get the inside track to the number one seed. Neither the Bills or the Chiefs are even the top team in their division, and this is where it looks. Colts the best team in the AFC so far. New England leading the AFC East. They're at 6-2. Bills at 5-2. Then you got the Broncos and the Chargers ahead of the Chiefs, who have now ascended at least into that 7 and final spot in the wild card. Those are the three teams, Jags, Texans, Bengals, creeping behind. The Ravens, I'm not putting them out to pasture yet. Maybe not in the wild card, but the division certainly up in the air. They got Miami tonight on Thursday Night Football as Lamar Jackson returns. But when you look at this, Vic, it adds a different sort of emphasis and importance on this game this week.
There is no question. It is a different feel, and especially for the Chiefs. They come into this thing not like they've come into previous games into Orchard Park or Kansas City, but this one being in Orchard Park where they were last year. And it was the conversation at midfield after the game, after the Bills win, like, we're going to see you guys again in the playoffs. They knew it. It's not so certain now where this goes, and especially from a Chiefs standpoint, third in not just a division, but one of the better, if not the best division in the AFC. Denver Broncos are no joke. The Los Angeles Chargers, competitive, and when you look at the strengths of those teams and then you look at what the Chiefs did to hurt their chances by that big stumble out of the gate, I think you see how they're playing catch-up right now. This game, it's arguable that this game would mean more to them than it does to the Bills because, yes, the Bills are in second place and looking up at the Patriots, and they need to get their act together in multiple ways that we'll discuss. But, John, they could survive this loss, and in a division where really, yes, the Patriots are certainly positioning themselves to possibly win this thing or push the Bills really hard if the two of them go back and forth at it. But after that, there isn't much else. Yeah, if the Chiefs lose this game, I'm not going to say definitively, but the chances of them winning the West once again would be incredibly slim. Oh, yeah. Because you're chasing two teams, you need to be multiple games behind both of them. With the Bills, we know the Patriots' schedule is relatively easy, so there's not many opportunities for them to potentially slip up. But the division, I think, would be even more challenging for the Bills, and that's where you're looking, with where they are stacked up right now, you're looking at the two perceived favorites of the conference going into the season with Baltimore, looking at road games to start the playoffs, and maybe never playing at home their entire way should they try to get to the Super Bowl. Right, and those stakes are understood, and they matter. Even, you can hear all the we're focusing on one game at a time nonsense you want. It's nonsense. They know what's at stake. When you're at the level that these teams are, and we're talking in particular about the Bills, when you're at that level and you know what the whole object is here, you're there to get to, not just get to January, but to get to the Super Bowl. And in a game like this, or a game like any game that they have left, and where they are positioned in their division, all of those thoughts enter the minds of not just the players, but the coaches as well. For the sake of the public and for the sake of the team, yes, just focus on one at a time. They're not focusing on one at a time, just for the record. Yeah, they're well aware of this, no matter how many times they say they don't pay attention to the outside noise. It's not noise. They're very well aware of the circumstances and the setting going into this one. We all are very aware of Patrick Mahomes. He once again is playing at an elite level. And Vic, what we're seeing is he's throwing the ball more down the field. And the thing that sticks out to me is not just the passing numbers. You see tied for first with 17 touchdowns, nearly 2,100 passing yards, second in the NFL. From watching Chiefs games, his running has really been a difference maker to me. John, I think he has elevated his whole game. He is playing the best football. It's a hard thing to say for a guy who's been an MVP, who's played in all these Super Bowls, who's been his team, 10 consecutive years of playoff football, all the accolades you want to put there, and yet he's managed to find another level to play. And it's not only what he's done throwing the football, like you said, the way he's running it, the way he's operating their RPO game, okay, the run pass option game, and effectively taking, maybe not the strongest pure running game, but elevating that with the use of receivers, with the use of those screens. And you watched him against Washington the other night, those off-schedule throws, those sidearm deals, those just underarm deliveries, all those things that he does effortlessly. It's impressive and better than I've ever seen him. And it looks like he's playing with a vengeance, that he wants to make up for the humiliation that he and his teammates suffered in that Super Bowl last February.
And we've seen against the Bills, he can get out onto the pocket and make plays on the perimeter and even take off against them. He's averaging 35 yards per game rushing, his career high, 24.3. So he's averaging early on, midway through the season, over nearly 10 yards more per game. He's second on the Chiefs in rushing overall. And even from just watching practice and talking to some guys with the Bills defense, they are very well aware, like everyone is with Josh Allen, what he can do out of structure. The passing game has taken off, and it's kind of gone hand in hand with the return of Rashee Rice. He had 6-game suspension. He's come back, 16 catches, 135 yards, and 3 touchdowns in just 2 games, and that's on 19 targets here. So they have gone from 0 to hero with Rice, and then you see the other guys that are kind of now slotting probably in their better roles.
I'm telling you, it's when you think about what they have from top to bottom, catching passes. Let's throw a guy named Travis Kelce in that mix, a future Hall of Famer. This group looks pretty much unstoppable. So in their last 5 games, okay, with 4 victories in these last 5, they've averaged 31 points a game, just over. It's like 30.8, whatever. That's telling in and of itself, because what was a struggling machine, because early in the year, in a 1-2 start, they totaled 60 points. So this is you call it a turnaround. I mean, it's as big an about face as I think any team has had, frankly, and it feels like throughout with the scheming, throughout the receiving core with Patrick Mahomes, they're finding ways to attack every inch of the field. They were always sort of this kind of offense. But, John, I think it's happening to a greater degree now. It reminds me very much of when Tyreek Hill was a Chief and they would put the ball in his hand on those bubble screen things and just let him take off. They're doing much more sophisticated stuff now with a lot of highly talented, explosive athletes.
We've had a lot of conversation about the Bills' secondary. Jordan Poyer and Jordan Hancock were rotating, with Hancock playing a lot of passing downs against Carolina this past weekend. We know this is a pass-happy type of team in Kansas City. Do we see more Hancock or do we see more Poyer? Christian Benford has not lived up to the Christian Benford contract so far. You would think he would be the main guy to deal with Rashee Rice. And now you got Max Harrison, second game. There was a rotation with Tre'Davious White. Don't just scoff at the Hollywood Browns, the Juju Smith-Schusters, Tyquan Thornton, those types of guys. Xavier Worthy, they can make some sort of impacts as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bills' secondary, much maligned, matches up with the Chiefs' pass catchers. Travis Kelce, I just want to quickly note, he still is Travis Kelce. It looked like maybe the decline was coming, and he still is as reliable and effective as he's been throughout his Hall of Fame career.
They're at a point, and they've been at this point before, but I'd say even more so in these last 5 games. Let's use that as the measuring stick of games that we're talking about entering this game against Buffalo, where you just don't doubt their ability to pick up a 3rd down somehow or a 4th down, because they're almost always going to go for it. There is rarely a spot on the field where this team is going to punt, and they can get themselves deep out of their own end. I mean, they can do a variety of things. The field position game is going to be critical. Special teams will, you got to heighten that importance, because the Bills are going to need to do the best they can to pin them down and try to discourage them from having those 4th down attempts. But almost everywhere else, close to midfield and beyond, this team they're not going to run out of downs. I mean, theoretically, they are going to constantly attack. And why not? And where do you see the Bills stopping them? Having Ed Oliver out of the lineup is a big problem in terms of trying to get pressure. The Chiefs' offensive line, let's not forget this, and yes, they've had a couple of issues there, but nothing like a year ago when it was a disaster and when the Eagles just pummeled that offensive line in the Super Bowl.
The good news is Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard continue to be full participants. Looks like the Bills linebackers will be back against the Chiefs. The run game is the one area that maybe you say, all right, maybe you just sag on the pass. Isaiah Pacheco has not practiced this week dealing with a knee injury. He is the Chiefs' leading rusher here, so that leaves Kareem Hunt and 7th-round rookie Brashard Smith here. You know about Hunt's. Brashard Smith ran a 4.39 40 at the combine here, so he's kind of the lightning to the thunder.
Yeah, and if we assume that Pacheco, who didn't practice today, had a knee injury that he suffered late in the Washington game, let's say they hold him out. Just Kareem Hunt alone could help carry this, and Smith as well, could carry this run game as it's structured. Back to that RPO thing with Patrick Mahomes, with the use of Rashee Rice, with the use of Xavier Worthy. They have probably 4 or 5 running backs technically, and these receivers function as such, and they're coming out of the backfield and they're coming quickly and a lot of pre-snap motion, and they get defenses to get clogged up and out of position to deal with that.
We'll go to the defense quickly because it's a lot of the usual names that we're used to. Chris Jones is still Chris Jones, as Sean McDermott said, a generational guy. George Karlaftis, I think, is the guy that's really ascending into maybe their premier pass rusher, 4.5 sacks for him. You still got Trent McDuffie. You got Nick Bolton. You got some of the familiar names here. This unit is still strong with Steve Spagnuolo.
It's a strong unit. Throw Brian Cook into the mix at safety. He is playing exceptionally well. And then Steve Spagnuolo, you really start with that. He is a nemesis for this Bills team in terms of how he can scheme it up and create problems. Now, it's a fact that Josh Allen has done well against the Chiefs defense. I mean, that happens. Josh as an entity. The Bills offense as a whole, again, I think Steve Spagnuolo can figure out some things, especially this version of the Bills offense, which is in many ways, you could say one-dimensional, right? It's going to run through James Cook. I'm not sure we're going to see a dramatic shift from that in this game, but you have to figure Steve Spagnuolo is going to coach it in a way that says, okay, beat us throwing the football. We'll do our part to try to slow down or contain Cook.
And Cook played pretty well in the AFC Championship game. I think outside of Allen, he was the best player that they had here, and it continues to be just a wild thought exercise that the reigning league MVP defenses are saying, you got to beat us and not anyone else.
That's insane.
And that is a truest indictment at the state of the Bills offense is now. All right, coming up, we go to the other side of the matchup and get the Chiefs' perspective from Jesse Newell of The Athletic. His conversation with Vic on the other side of the break. You're watching Sports Talk Live Plus. Welcome back to Sports Talk Live Plus. It's once again that time where we get the perspective on the upcoming matchup from the opponent's side. This week, Vic chatting with Jesse Newell of The Athletic.
Yeah, Jesse has done a tremendous job of covering this Chiefs team. And, you think about it, they're usually the team that is at the top and cruising along. And, what are the new angles for the Chiefs? But he has found plenty. Give this a watch. Besides getting back some key pieces to this team, what else is different? Because it feels like the Chiefs not only are back to the Chiefs, but maybe are above that level.
Yeah, if you look at what they've done, you're right. The injury part of this and Rashee Rice coming back has been a big part of the Chiefs' sort of renaissance lately. But I think a couple things in the offseason you point to. For one, Patrick Mahomes sort of set out a mission to be more aggressive, and they've thrown the ball further downfield. You saw it especially early in the season with Tyquan Thornton hitting some deep shots they didn't do a season ago, and it's come now to some acronyms that they continue to use. I wrote last week at The Athletic about one of them that offensive coordinator Matt Nagy came up with, which was AAF, and he set aggressive as fire. That's the PG version of it, but that's what they repeat to Patrick Mahomes. Matt Nagy says he says it to him sometimes in the play call afterwards to keep him in that mindset of like, hey, if there's a shot, take it. And so it's kind of cool. He says that when Patrick Mahomes comes to the sideline after a big play, the quarterbacks come up to him and go, hey, man, that was AAF. That was AAF. So you look around the Chiefs locker room. Now defensive linemen are wearing the white T-shirt with the red letters. And so part of this is just an aggressive mentality. The Chiefs were not what they wanted to be offensively, mentality-wise, the last couple of years. Now they're getting to that, and I think you're starting to see the fruits of that here the last few games.
Something that stood out to me watching that game against the Commanders was how effective the Chiefs' running game was. And obviously there was a storyline that that's the weakness of this offense, but certainly it looked like it was clicking there. And you know that the Bills have issues dealing with the run, have had issues dealing with the run defensively. Is that something the Chiefs can exploit along with what else they do offensively?
I think the Chiefs have been better. And so better is sort of relative in Andy Reid world, because when you have Patrick Mahomes and you have the guys on the outside that the Chiefs have, they're going to throw over expected more than any other team in the NFL. That's just the way Andy Reid goes. The other part of this that's a little bit tricky is that the Chiefs run more RPOs, run pass option plays, than any team in the NFL. So some of these passes actually were runs. It's just, it depends on the look that you get, and the Chiefs are never hesitant to go to those and put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands and have him make a good decision. But I will say, Kareem Hunt ran well Monday night against the Commanders, so that's a positive for them. He was coming off of knee and ankle injuries, but sure didn't look like it. The biggest thing for him is he's a short yardage specialist. That the Eagles have the tush push. Josh Allen does a great job with the quarterback sneaks, but the Chiefs have Kareem Hunt. They will not put Patrick Mahomes under center to the quarterback sneak after he hurt his knee and dislocated his kneecap a couple years ago. And Kareem Hunt has been a revelation for them in that regard. I also think run blocking, they've just been doing a little bit better job, and they've had some shuffling at those positions as well. Josh Simmons, the rookie left tackle, has been out for a personal matter, and Jalen Moore stepped in and done a great job and done well in the run block game. And then I think Trey Smith, the right guard for them, will be back for the Bills game. He sat out a week to try to get this back injury healthy. But I do think they're run blocking better. But just to be completely honest with you, the pass game is always going to be the trump card for the Chiefs, and that's the way they like it to be with Patrick Mahomes.
From the Bills' standpoint, you think of Josh Allen, you think of his talented arm and MVP and all of that, yet the best that they've done offensively all year has been through James Cook in this running game. How do you see the Chiefs' defense matching up against that?
So the Chiefs' defense has been very opportunistic. Like, if you look at the under the hood numbers for the offense, the Chiefs' offense is looking like 2018 again. I mean, they are just phenomenal. And per play, per drive, all those things are going great. Defensively, they're sort of taking advantage of the game script, which is if the Chiefs get ahead of you and you have to pass the football and you have to become one-dimensional, that's exactly where they want you. And that's when Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, can pull out all the blitzes, can do these exotic things. If they get you in that situation, you're really done for. And that's why I think you saw in the Commanders game, for a half, the Commanders hung in there. They were over 6 yards of play in the first half. They have some success, but once you get behind the Chiefs, that's when things really start to unravel. So the other thing I have to mention here, and I know this is speaking to Buffalo fans, and it's hard to hear this, but the Chiefs really haven't had an answer for Josh Allen. They haven't. You look in the playoff games, they haven't had an answer for him. He's one of the toughest matchups they go up against. And even going back to last year's playoff game, I remember where the Chiefs got 2 free rushers on him on that game-deciding play, and still he backpedals and gives Dalton Kincaid a chance on that play to be able to put him in field goal range and potentially go win the game. And so he's a really tough matchup for the Chiefs. I remember that game in Buffalo last year where he broke so many tackles, sort of his MVP moment to get through there and get to the end zone. So for the Bills, if you let Josh Allen do what he does and perform the way he does against the Chiefs, I like their chances of scoring against the Chiefs. It's just right now you've seen the Chiefs offense sort of ascending the last few weeks with Rashee Rice and Patrick Mahomes, and that's going to be a tough unit to stop as well. So I can see a lot of points in this game for definitely out in Buffalo, but I think for the Bills, the biggest thing is just to not fall behind. As long as you can remain balanced, as long as you let Josh Allen do his thing, I think it can have some success against the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, and I think it's all about the balance. He just summed it up there. If you're looking at a Bills team, which we are, that has been relying so heavily on the run, that has been the focus of their offense, that formula could be a big problem against this Chiefs team.
I agree with him. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think the Chiefs' defense is strong, and I know the Bills' offense hasn't been up to snuff so far, but I do believe Josh Allen ascends in these types of games against this particular opponent. I think they didn't need to pass the ball. Maybe we get a little bit more creativity from Joe Brady, but I think high scoring, upper 20s, maybe low 30s is where we're going to go, for me, at least, into this one. The NFL trade deadline next Tuesday afternoon. What should be on the table for Brandon Beane and the Bills? Vic and I discussed that, plus news on the future of training camp up at St. John Fisher. We've got that coming up next here on Sports Talk Live Plus. Bills training camp will remain at St. John Fisher University for at least 3 more years. Thanks, McDermott. The team and school agreeing to an extension through 2028. Camp's been up on the campus in Pittsford since 2000. Bills, one of only 6 teams in the NFL to go away for training camp this past summer, so certainly not the norm around the league. Everyone's staying home, Vic. And you have an idea, a feeling for why the timing is different. Usually we don't get an official word about camp up at Fisher until like May, but this is way early.
Right, and that's first clue that I think it ties into my thought. This is not anything official from the team, but my thought is with the construction of the new stadium, and that I think it's going to take everything possible, every minute, second possible to get that finished on time. There would be a corresponding construction or destruction project across the street with the existing Highmark Stadium and what will happen sort of in that general area. Now, yes, there are fields there, and would it be possible to, where this long thought had been held that eventually camp would be, like other teams, be held at their headquarters? But I think given what is ahead via construction and via what's going on maybe across the street from on Abbott Road, I think it makes perfect sense for them to stay where they are, to keep the thing remote. It is the preference of Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane to do it that way. And I think they've felt good. Why not? I mean, look at where the team has been competitively over the time that those two have been in charge of the team, Beane and McDermott, but also the fact that they've been in St. John Fisher.
I think they just like the Pittsford Dairy milkshakes. That's just me here. Trade deadline is next Tuesday at 4 p.m., Vic. We're not going to go too deep into this, but is there anything that can happen Sunday against the Chiefs that would sway you in your belief on what they at least should try to do?
Yeah, well, since I've made James Cook general manager in place of this guy, it'll be run the football. No, what they and get more help in that regard. No, they should go defense. They should go defensive tackle. It's not the wide receiver market. A.J. Brown and Jalen Waddle. The Dolphins aren't trading him in the division, and with Brown, the Eagles would be facing something of a $40 million dead cap hit. So don't look for, I think, a dramatic move in the pass catcher area, even though that's something that's needed. But I think it's to continue to beef up what's front. You're missing Ed Oliver for a long time. You've got to fulfill that spot.
Is there even, just quickly, any like a lower level wide receiver move, just in general, not a name that would be impactful?
No, and again, I'm going to go back to D-line. Harrison Phillips. How about making a Buffalo return?
I think he would like that as well. We'll get more into this on the regular Sports Talk Live Monday night at 7 o'clock with Adam Bonini coming in. Bills Chiefs, 4:25 inside Highmark Stadium on Sunday. We'll have plenty to talk about with Vic. I'm John. We'll see you next week.